Back here on HQ Spotlight, we turn the page to the NFL. Dolphins cornerback Jaylen Ramsey not in attendance in mandatory minicamp today. It was excused, but not a surprise, as the team has been working towards a trade. The former All-Pro signed a 3-year extension through 2028. He played in all 17 games last year, but Miami has yet to find a trade partner willing to take on his massive contract. It includes $16.6 million in cap space in 25. So while they sort that out, the Dolphins also need to find his replacement. Ramsey with 2 interceptions, 60 tackles, 6 of those for loss, and 11 passes defended in 2024. So let's get a pulse on all things happening in Miami. We've got our former lineman here in Kyle Long, and we've got our NFL on CBS analyst Charles Davis joining the program. Charles, I want to start the conversation with Jaylen Ramsey because we've known for what feels like a while now that he is probably not going to be on the team in 2025. So let's turn the page. Who should we be getting to know in that secondary for Dolphins fans who are looking for that replacement?
Well, you better get to know Storm Duck, which is one of the all-time great names who ended up being kind of a starter for them. But the name that has to step up, in my estimation, for you and Kyle is Cam Smith, the second-round pick in 2023. To me, it's now or never, all right? They drafted him to be a starter, and he hasn't come close to living up to that promise. And whether Jaylen Ramsey is there or not, they need him to step up and become one of those guys. I mean, that's a high draft pick, high potential, almost no return so far. Even Chris Greer, the GM, talked about it this offseason. This is it. Like, there's no other waiting for the bell to ring. This is time. Cam Smith's a name we need to know.
Yeah, CD, and it seems to be a recurring theme, both sides of the ball, young guys having to step up. And you know that with their style of offense, they're going to score a lot of points. Teams are going to throw the football. You better be loaded for bear in the secondary at the corner position. So the Dolphins, they've got their work cut out for them, obviously, if Jaylen Ramsey's not going to be returning. Yeah,
they did also draft Jason Marshall Jr. in the 5th round, brought him in to be a developmental piece, but who knows at this point. Kyle, you mentioned the offense, so I want to go to that side of the ball next. Couple of surprises that we've seen in the offseason for Miami. The first was Jonnu Smith on the trade block, potentially with Pittsburgh. He was not at minicamp today, Charles. Tyreek Hill, though, was. First time we got to see him catch passes after having surgery on that left wrist. I kind of want to just focus on the offense as a whole here, Charles, when you think about some of those pieces that are moving. Tyreek Hill being a wild card. Question marks with Jonnu Smith. What do you expect this offense to look like in Miami?
Well, I think Kyle already alluded to it. Listen, if Mike McDaniel's putting together an offense, it's going to hum, all right? And that's just a big part of what he does. The thing I'm looking for from them is not just that explosive start, Kyle, that we're used to seeing each and every week, where their speed kind of takes advantage of, hey, we have to adjust, and how fast can teams do it? Some adjust quicker than others. But bottom line is, can they do that now and then still be able to slug it out down the stretch against teams where it's not a track meet and they're able to get going that way? Very interesting that Jonnu Smith, who had that big year last year, might be on the trade block. Could he go back to Tennessee? Is Pittsburgh interested? That's a surprise considering they need all weapons on hand.
Yeah, it's crazy to me, and you make a great point because obviously this team can go out and skill and speed people to death. They've got that in droves, and with McDaniel's scheme, it's more often than not successful. But when it comes time for those winter months when the mercury goes in retrograde, we need some physicality.
Okay, trendy, Kyle.
So you bring in a guy like James Daniel on the offensive line, sure, but he hasn't been healthy. Teron Armstead is out the building now, so you don't have that stalwart at the left tackle position. There's a lot of things that CD's alluding to that remains to be seen about this Dolphins offense.
Hey, Charles, real quick before we move on, because I do want to get to the offensive line. When it comes to Tyreek Hill, it's just kind of been a roller coaster with him, and you know what he brings to the offense on the football field. You also know what comes with him off the field as well. Seeing him show up to minicamp today, post-surgery there, showing his commitment, what does that tell you about what to expect out of him in 25?
Almost nothing.
Fair.
Almost nothing. Glad that he is there, but the idea that we're going to learn something from this, I mean, let's be honest about it, Haley, Kyle. If you're trying to read tea leaves with Tyreek Hill, and say, okay, this is what we're getting, that's called folly, because you just don't know. Like, him showing up and playing has never really been the issue. It's been all the stuff that swirls around getting him to play, getting towards him, getting to the field. So, yeah, I'm glad he's there. But does that tell me anything over the years? For me, Kyle, absolutely nothing.
It doesn't tell me anything either, Haley. It tells me that Tyreek needs football. He needs to be around his teammates, and it's good to see him there.
Okay, so that, we did learn one thing. We'll see if the trend continues, but Charles, I like that answer a lot. Kyle, I want to get into the offensive line, though, but because we talk about losses and gains in the offseason, it's no surprise that the offensive line had a lot of those on both sides of the ball. We saw Calais Campbell head out to Arizona, but your biggest loss of the offseason is Teron Armstead, the offensive tackle.
Yeah, well, I think about the leadership that a guy like Teron Armstead brought into the building. Having been in offensive line rooms with savvy veterans that are extremely skilled like Teron was with his great career, it made your job easier as a young player, developmental player. This is an O-lineman's dream, playing in Mike McDaniel's offense. The ball is snapped and the ball is thrown before you can hiccup. So they have that benefit, that luxury. They bring in a guy like James Daniels this offseason, and I think that's a big addition. You need to be able to control the inside of that line of scrimmage, as Charles alluded to. The physicality is still a thing. Football still has to be played. We can't just scheme people to death every week.
Pal, I love that. Teron Armstead, losing him for so many reasons, all of them that you articulated, and just the presence of who he is as a person in addition. For me, I'm going to go defensive side of the ball, losing Javon Holland, who has that opportunity to come into his own and be a Pro Bowl, All-Pro player on a yearly basis. He has everything you're looking for. Can come down the box, play the high safety, tackles really well, big hitter, all those things. He's taking his talents to the New York Giants. Ashton Davis coming over from the Jets right now is the replacement. And he's really been a special teams player almost his entire career. He's been more athlete than he's been football player. You go back to his time at Cal, where he was a track star more than he was a football star. Can he step in and give them the type of play they need at safety? We'll find out soon enough.
I'll tell you guys a really quick fun story about Teron Armstead. When I was working in local news here in Miami, I had an opportunity to interview Rick Ross. And one of the questions that I asked Rick Ross was about Teron Armstead. Teron Armstead actually did a cover of Rick Ross's song Lemon Pepper Freestyle, so I got to talk to Rick Ross about that.
Wow.
And then got to connect it with Teron Armstead, so I'll find the video and show it to you. But Teron Armstead.
Love both those guys.
Make sure you send me that link, Haley.
I got you. I'll send it your way.
I mean, I got to tell you, wasn't on my bingo card, Kyle, that we would be sitting here talking about Teron Armstead and somehow Rick Ross.
The Lemon Pepper Freestyle.
The Lemon Pepper Freestyle. There's the connection.
I did not have that. I mean, I'm pretty agile and on my feet, but I didn't have that one.
Got to keep y'all on your toes. Let's go to our offseason losses. And Kyle, you or our offseason gains, I should say. You alluded to this already. James Daniels coming in as the replacement there.
I jumped the gun on this one. I said it a little bit too early, twice actually. James Daniels is coming in, and he's a guy that plays the guard position. He can play the center position. I was with him in Chicago when we drafted him. Played at the University of Iowa. Tough. But he's dealt with injury. He's dealt with some injuries the last few years. I think he has an opportunity to reinvent himself. They've got some other young guys in that offensive line. I'm sure we'll get to them. I think he'll fit in great. He'll have an opportunity to redefine this offense as a physical one on the inside.
And Kyle, I'm staying right where you are, except I'm going with the rookie out of the University of Arizona who played left tackle there, Jonah Savanaia. He is going to come in now, and with James Daniel, they've got to shore up the inside portion of that offense. Why? Think of where they're playing, because we always start with the division, don't we? You've got to block Ed Oliver in Buffalo. You've got to block Quentin Williams with the New York Jets. And with the New England Patriots, if Christian Barmore is back, plus they added Milton Williams, you've got to block those people and make sure that your smaller quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, has an opportunity to step up in the pocket and throw the football, a la Drew Brees with the New Orleans Saints. That middle portion cup, you got to make sure you have that for your shorter quarterback so they have a sight line.
Dude, he's preaching the good stuff. He's talking about Jari Evans and Carl Nicks, two of the best guards to ever do it. That's the Sean Payton, Aaron Cromer formula. Have a strong dish in the middle, big explosive offense follows. I love that, Charles.
Isn't this a fun segment for you?
Yes,
We're just gushing about the offensive linemen. You mentioned Tua, Charles. It's interesting. He got to speak to the media today and said that he, quote, feels it in his heart, a culture shift down in Miami. So, Kyle, that being said, they need a culture shift after an 8-9 season from a year ago. They open this year in Indy. They get the Bills, I believe, in week 3. Give us your prediction for the Dolphins in 2025.
They were 8-9 last year?
8-9 last year.
I'll just put it to you this way. It's going to be more of the same with the Miami Dolphins. 8-9. You know what? There's a lot of games on there I have circled as wins in the first half of the season. But as that mercury, which we referred to earlier, starts to drop, a lot of losses.
Retrograde.
for that Dolphins football team. Tough back half of the schedule, too.
Yeah, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 losses there, and then a win at the Patriots to end the season, back at 8-9. I believe the playoff drought is ticking towards 25 years, gentlemen, with them not getting a playoff win in Miami. So, tough sledding. But, guys, we appreciate the time. Go listen to Lemon Pepper Freestyle while you're at it, guys. Refresh yourself there on Mr. Rick Ross. Here's what Sportsline feels the Dolphins are going to do. Kyle, right on the money there. They are projecting just over 8 wins. They got just under a 5% chance to win the division there, and then about a 38% shot of making it into the postseason.